Good evening. My name's Crimson, and I'm from Shine Light in the Dark, and I am here with Hooked Like Helen. And they've actually just recently gotten off a tour, and they were so gracious, like during their downtime, to meet with us and give us a little moonlight this evening. And I am so grateful to have y'all here, and I really love y'all's music. So this was like one of the ones I was really excited about. So, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, and just kind of like a little bit of like what y'all's process is like on tour. Like, what's that draining? Like, I mean, like, I know that that's that energy and it's fulfilling, but that's also got to be pretty hard, right? Coming back from touring and then like readjusting to normal everyday life.
Oh yes, for sure. So
It's a little process.
we're hooked like Helen. It's John and I. We're married. We're gonna be married for 10 years. We've been together for like 11. Uh, but we were always musicians together even first. That's how we met. So like our dynamic as like co-workers and co-artists and musicians is like what came first and like what we know how to do best.
We met in LA in a band.
Yes,
We
out
were in the
out in
same
LA.
band for a couple
Um,
years before we started dating.
Yes, for a few years, and then moved back to Ohio, which is where he's from, when we found out we were having our kid, our baby, and he's now 10 years old. So we did a lot of, once we moved to Ohio, we weren't in a major music city anymore. So we were kind of focusing on home recording and home studio in our little house in the woods and writing music for like film and television and kind of taking that sync path. And then things kind of started rolling from there, and we kind of got like a song and a dance movie that kind of was like highly featured with dancing and etc. And we were like, okay, it's time to like kind of take this to the next step. So just in this past year
Well, then
is
COVID happened.
well, COVID happened, and that took a little bit of a. We were kind of getting ready to play live, but not exactly. I feel like COVID kind of prolonged a few things, but I feel like it was perfect because we ended up just being really ready for this new phase of touring just this past year. So we had our first tour in April and May, and then we just got off of our second tour. And so we have Connor and Heather who play with us live. Connor's on guitar and Heather's on drums. And it is a crazy adjustment to go from touring and all and the basically the roller coaster of that, of like there's draining, like you said, you use that word, it's like so appropriate, of like the really long drives and the really late nights and not sleeping a lot and not getting like maybe the best diet, and it is kind of exhausting, but then you have the highs of like the shows and getting to meet with the fans and getting to have that energy, that shared energy. um and then you get home and like we've heard about there being like a post tour like depression that happens for people. We haven't experienced that yet because after both tours, we were immediately hit with something like that we had to do. Like after the last tour, we found out before the last tour was even over that we had a show where we were going to be opening for Jewel, who's like one of my heroes, and then playing Pride in our hometown, Sandusky, opening for Paris, who's another artist that we love. So like we had to like just keep going there, and then we did this tour, and now we've got like a show we're doing in Elkhart, Indiana, which is a place that shows us a lot of love, and like we play there every year, but it's like a 2-hour set, so we're like preparing the band for that, and then we have a hometown show on October 27th. That's going to be like a costume contest, and we're going to be dropping a single. And so basically we're just still like going like this. So like we haven't had a chance to crash yet.
There.
Might be really massive when we do. I don't know.
It sounds like y'all been keeping really busy though. And number one, I want to bounce back and say congratulations on the 10-year marriage, and
Oh,
that's so
thank you.
awesome. Like how y'all met, and I also heard that y'all have a 10-year-old in there too, and I think that that's really cool that y'all have brought that together. And I liked though how you were talking about like how you haven't even had the time really to experience it, and even like the energy at the shows, right? Like it's like at the shows, you're almost like in the shared energy with everybody, with all your fans and everybody like in the room. So I can imagine it's kind of hard to go to sleep afterwards, and like even kind of like because they're generally shows are late at night, right? And then I'm supposed to go to bed like after this huge like massive like energy high, right? And so I
Yeah.
imagine sleep's not very good, and then you you kind of come back home, and I feel like you know and I was just kind of curious, like, how does that falling back into any kind of routine really work? Like,
It
because you were
takes
kind of
me a
mentioning,
while.
like, you're still busy, but how has that worked?
I mean, it takes me a while. Like you say, after the show, you're not tired. But since you're not tired, what we do is we drive for at least an hour, maybe two sometimes. If it's like a rigorous one, like 4 hours. The last one we had like a 6 hour overnighter, right? That Connor and I did.
Yeah.
So after the shows, you really don't sleep. You drive and you plan it to where you stop at a hotel and just get as much sleep as you possibly can before you have to be there the next day. You know what I mean? So you split up the driving, or we do. This is the way we do it, which I think is the way to get the most sleep.
Because we're just in a van and we're taking turns driving, so it's not like
we don't have a bus.
Like bigger bands, they'll have a bus with an actual driver, so everybody's asleep on their bunks, and then the driver can sleep during the day. So instead, we're all just kind of.
So there's always two people up in our van.
Yeah, someone awake with the driver, but it works out because we're always wired. So we're like, just drive until the high kind of subsides, and then we're like, okay, let's get a hotel and sleep for a while and then go.
Sleep for like 6 hours usually if we're lucky, and then go.
We try to make it work. Make it work for us.
Yeah. So when did we get back? I'm like just now getting adjusted again to like somewhat of a routine as far as sleep goes.
Today is Thursday, and I think we got back at 4:30 a.m. on Saturday. So it hasn't been quite a week. But it's been a little bit chaotic with like trying to get back in routine with our son, because he stays with John's parents who are in our little hometown with us when we're gone. And John's mom is a teacher at our son's school. So like they go into school together, they come out together, and like he's got a room in their house and everything for when he's staying there. So it's awesome to have that support system. So his schedule isn't too crazy. Like his life isn't being turned completely upside down. He's still got his school and his sports and everything. And so we're basically just kind of like, okay, Augie's got it. This is what we're doing. Like
we get back into
he's got his routine.
We get back into Augie's routine.
Yes. What we have to do. So he's very helpful.
That's cool though, because it sounds like y'all found a way to make family and music and everything just kind of flow together to where it's not taking big hits on like y'all's routine. And I also love how you mentioned like, because that makes so much sense, right? Like I've already got this energetic high from the show, so why not use some of that energy productively to be able to drive,
right?
Instead of sitting there for like several hours trying to force myself to go to sleep and and kind of use that. And so I heard you mention that this was your second tour, right? And but I was kind of curious, like about like, so like we were talking a little bit about the energy, right? And like your fans are joining you in that energy. And I like to think of music like as its own entity, like as its own other person that's with you during the darkest times of your life, even the brightest, like the good and the bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as an artist, you're creating that world, right, for the listener to come join you in. What does your process look like of creating that world, and what's the most therapeutic aspect for you?
So I really like your Shine a Light in the Dark, because that is kind of how I feel. That's where I kind of like to come from. Like that's my goal. When I make music, I'm always pretty much most of the time coming from a place of pain or a place of sadness. I have a lot of trauma in my past, and a lot of times that comes up with depression, etc. And music is the thing. The creating of the music, it's like it gives some purpose to that pain. It's like, okay, I can channel it into something and make it something that can be helpful or connect with others. And so even though a lot of our songs are kind of sad or kind of like maybe seem like they have like a negative or message, there's still kind of like that underlying hope there.
That comes through live, I feel, too, the underlying hope part, because the performances definitely aren't sad. There's nothing sad about our performance.
Like, we're pretty high energy, but it's like I was always going to write music and have that be part of my healing process, regardless if anybody ever heard it. Just because that's just how I am able to express myself. But then, when going on tour and playing the songs live for people, and then having that connection with them, and like one-on-one after the show, whatever, and realizing that like, oh, this is this shared experience and it is doing what I hoped that it would do, at times it's just like brought like a new life into it for sure. And so the process is just, trying to convey that message of hope, and even though it's bad now, like there can be something better. Even just this moment of sharing this music together is something good that has come out of the pain.
Yeah, I think that was really cool how even how he mentioned a second ago too, like the live performances aren't sad, even though the lyrics itself are like raw and real. And I think that's so important because like when I'm vibing alone, right, the music's going to be very raw and real to me and tell me about things that I'm feeling that I don't even necessarily know I'm feeling, and it's going to speak for me, right? But like in the moment when I'm actually with this person that's helping alchemize my pain, something different happens, right, in the crowd. Like all of a sudden this song almost has this great like uplifting release that's helping me like, kind of push that out. And like
Yeah.
it helps the listener express themselves and then actually feel so seen in those moments, because the person that's been seeing them in the dark, right, that they can't see, all of a sudden seeing them in real life, right? Like, and now y'all are in that same like energy together. And I think that
Yes.
that's so huge and impactful. And another thing I was going to say that I found very inspiring about all your lyrics is how raw they are. I love the rawness and the realness to that. What would be some advice that you had for younger listeners or for just artists in general, right? Or people in general, really, to really be able to express themselves, like to be able to take that step of faith out on themselves, to express themselves, because those are vulnerable topics that a lot of times we try to hide, that
Yeah.
you're singing about and trying to help people with. What advice might you have for them?
So I would say try not to be afraid, because you are not alone. Like, I was so surprised to hear about all the common experiences and the common emotions and the common things that that our fans and our listeners like express to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm just who I am, and I'm just like, I have to be honest in the music, because it's like that's my relief, that's my comfort. So I'm just going to be honest and real as hell, and just, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I think some people might be afraid to do that, because like you said, it is a vulnerable thing to do. But if you do, it's like literally everybody else out there is feeling some kind of pain sometimes, and there's so many people that are struggling with things privately, that even though they're not showing it, they are experiencing that stuff. So it's like, there's not just this sea of people out there that's just going to make fun of you or mock you or not understand you. It's like, we really are all in this together. So just try not to be afraid, because that's the only thing stopping you.
So for both of y'all, what were some of those influences that were, so like, remember I was talking about like music like as that entity, like with you, right? And like how now you're actually there now with people in their worlds. What were some musicians or songs or maybe even memories around music that you have that were your times in the darkness that helped y'all get through difficult times in y'all's lives?
For me, live performance wise, it would be Deftones and Green Day
Oh, awesome.
are the two bands that I identified with the most. Um, just the passionate performances and the fact that they care so much, like clearly, it just comes through, and I really appreciate that. So yeah, in those rooms, in those theaters, are definitely my favorite live performances.
Were there any specific songs ever that you felt really like emotionally connected? What that brought out that big connection in you that was just like, I feel seen, like in
I mean,
this moment right
I could sit here and name Green Day songs for half hour.
now? Okay.
Disappearing Boy and Christy Road off the first two albums. Having a Blast, Letter Bomb, all of them. I mean, there's so many songs that spoke to me for sure, and obviously millions of other people as well. I'm not the only one, but
Yeah.
I was this the only music that I felt like really that I felt perfectly. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I remember feeling, like when you're real young and you're like an adolescent and you just have so many emotions and you don't have a lot of context and you get dumped or whatever, and it's just like the biggest deal and the end of the world, especially for me, my like rejection issues and abandonment issues and stuff.
Boy bands?
And I just, no, not boy bands. I remember Prince, Beautiful Ones on the Purple Rain album. I like probably listened to it like 400 times in a row. You know, just crying and singing and screaming and just feeling like, oh my gosh, Prince is the only person on planet Earth that understands how I feel right now. You know, and it was such a gift to have because I was really going through it. And that was probably one of my first times of just like really, really becoming so like connected to music. We're talking 12, 13 years old. I mean, I was connected to music before that, but you know, just that angstiness of just like, that is like, there's nobody in real life that understands. It's just the music that gets me.
Right. Well, I think that's beautiful. Like, and I loved how both of y'all kind of came at it from a different approach, and like, and how even like when he was mentioning it, he was like, "I'm not the only one that's felt this way," and obviously, you're not the only one that's felt that. Like about Green Day, millions of people, right? Prince,
Yeah.
Purple Rain,
Gotta be
tons of
something
people.
there.
Exactly. And like, what's so cool is it's almost like a soul translation, you know, like. And what I mean by that, me and my daughter, like we've always had this thing where we're not always I have my own trauma, right? That made me sometimes not the best communicator with emotions. My daughter's not the best communicator with emotions, but a safe way to communicate emotions is like, hey mom, look at these lyrics. Listen to this song,
Yeah.
mom,
Oh
this tells you
wow.
exactly what I want you to hear from me. Like exactly the words that I'm afraid to say to you, but for some reason it's okay that song says it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's
Right?
great.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's beautiful how those lyrics, like, even if somebody else understands them and it means a million things to other people, the way it speaks to our own souls is like so unique and individual. And I think that that's really cool, especially like when I hear such raw lyrics from y'all and just like the way y'all really like put that together. And it kind of leads me into my next question about like the therapeutic process of which part's actually the most therapeutic for y'all. Is it playing? Is it writing the music? Is it the instrument? Is it the live show? Is it the tour? Is it recording? And when does catharsis happen? Is it actually after it's released? Or is it kind of during the process?
So it's before touring, I would have said it was the writing of it. Because that, and I think, yeah, that's what I would have said because that is the initial catharsis for sure. You know what I mean? You're just like, I've got this inside, and then like, here we go, like trying to make something out of it. And then, for me, like actually the recording and like producing and arranging and mixing and mastering and all that is actually quite tedious and pretty stressful because there's like this pressure of like there's this vision and like if it's not hitting that mark, like what are we gonna do? Is it good enough? Am I gaslighting myself? Blah 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 blah. And then like just the tediousness of like, you know, singing tracks and doing harmonies and da 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 and playing things and making sure it's perfect, editing, all of that is just work, really. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's satisfying, but it's not cathartic the way that the writing is. But then taking this next step and being able to connect with fans has just been a whole nother level. Just
That's it.
next level for sure. I don't know if you want to take over. I feel like I talk too much.
No, go ahead, talk. No, I love listening to you. I don't need to talk.
So just like, you know, like I had mentioned, just being able to say, oh my gosh, we have this shared experience and like you're feeling something and you're getting something positive out of this. So like that's feeding my soul. Oh my God, I can't believe this, you know, and just I was just telling my mom actually, we had a show in Indiana in Angola, I think it's called, a little town,
Yeah, we had
and
never heard of it. We didn't know where we were.
we had not heard of that town. It was a great crowd, lots of energy, and I was standing there speaking with somebody, and there was another woman just kind of standing in the background, waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting to talk, just to talk to me. I thought, and then she just walks up to me and she just starts bawling, and like I started crying, and we didn't even really know why. But we have an emotional song that we play at the end of the set, you know, about addiction and uh, the struggles of all of that. And, you know, I just hugged her and she just hugged me. And like, we really didn't say much. And then her friend came up and took her away. And it was just like, I'm so thankful for that. For like, we didn't even have to say anything. It was just like, we had this experience and we're just having these emotions and it's okay and it's beautiful, you know? So very thankful for that.
My answer is the same. The live show is in connecting with people is that's what it's all about for me. Like that's it.
I love that y'all are both talking about like the connecting with people, because music's one of those things too that, like, I remember I had one artist talk about how, like, if they see somebody with a band shirt on that they like that band too, it's almost like this instant gateway to be able to be like, oh my gosh, we have one thing in common. Like, I can talk
Yep.
to you. Like, we're connected now. We can be friends. And
Yes.
but I heard y'all even like as the artist talking about like that connection with people and how it builds those bonds, and really like, and I think like especially like on a listener perspective, right? It makes us feel like we know part of y'all, right? Like, because y'all, especially when it's raw and deep and real, and y'all are putting so much of y'all's time and energy and effort into that, right? And so I guess my question would be, number one, like what do y'all feel like is the best way for fans to support y'all and show y'all love? And number two, what has been y'all's best experience y'all have had with fans, and that's brought the most, like, community together for y'all?
So the best way is whatever way that they can and want to, and that feels good to them. Because, of course, in a perfect world, everybody has all this extra money to purchase merch and come to shows and do all of this. And of course, that means the world to us. But so does adding our song to a playlist, listening to it, sharing it with a friend, just giving us a nice comment, just literally knowing that you're enjoying the music, that you're getting something out of it. Any of that stuff, any and all of it, it all matters, and it all helps us to be able to continue to do what we're trying to do. And then as far as like the best like fan like experience or just experience on tour, for me
Yeah,
was probably the little girl who, like, every night we throw a t-shirt out into the crowd, one of our Sleepwalker t-shirts, and that's the song that we have that's about addiction. And
yeah,
we're actually able to do that because we had a fan purchase up a bunch of our t-shirts for us so that we could afford to throw one out into the crowd. So that was already amazing. Thank you so much to Joseph. Shout out to Joseph, the t-shirt sponsor. But then one night in Boston, we threw the shirt out into the crowd and a girl grabbed it. And after the show, she came up and said that her father had literally just passed away from an overdose, and that she could feel his spirit in the room when we were playing Sleepwalker, and that she felt that it was him trying to connect with her, like having her grab the shirt. And so that was extremely powerful. And then she came back on the next tour when we came back to Boston, and she was the first person in line at this venue. And it just like felt like seeing an old friend or a family member, to just be able to like connect with her again, see that she was doing well, doing better, and just, it's beautiful, you know, it's cool.
I don't have anything that beats that. It's wonderful.
Sorry.
Yeah. Um.
no, that's
Go
sorry.
ahead. I'm sorry. No, go ahead, please.
I think it froze. I'm so sorry. I did not mean to cut you off. I am so sorry.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. It was like stuck there for a second too.
Yeah, froze.
Okay. Sorry,
He
guys.
couldn't think of anything.
Yeah, no, please go ahead, talk. I was listening to her story and I just got lost. I was there for that too,
That was
and
a good
I
one.
really liked
Yeah.
I really liked her answer.
Oh,
I
thanks.
can't beat it.
No, yeah, no, and that's actually one of my favorite songs by y'all, right?
Oh,
And
thank
like,
you.
I love it, and it's beautiful, and the rawness of that, especially too. And I love how, like, both of the stories that I heard you mention, and like, even you were agreeing with, right? Like, both of those stories were so emotional, and they didn't even take a lot of like word translation. Like, it was almost like the music was almost just there, and it kind of like was speaking for itself, and almost
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't have to explain all of this to you. Like, you kind of know, and I kind of know, and I think that that's so beautiful. What do y'all find like to be the most powerful part of music in y'all's everyday lives, whether it's as a listener or as an artist, for y'all?
Just the way that it can affect our emotions. And I mean, I know like with our stuff, it's like, it's pretty heavy and it's pretty, we go on stage and I say, I write music about mental illness and trauma. And that's just a fact. Not everybody's like that. I like the fact that I can also go and just listen to something that is going to totally change my emotions in a good way, like escapism style, but in a way that's like healthy escapism. I can just go dance, have fun. I mean, any emotion that you want to feel or that you need to feel, music can help evoke that. And I think that's just like amazing.
I feel it. I feel it on the lawnmower when I mow the lawn.
Yes,
I
he
escape
jams.
into music for a good hour and a half, and I'm just completely gone wherever I want to be.
It's
That's
pretty cool.
awesome. So like you're getting transported into all their little worlds, right? Because you're
Yep.
mowing. That's
Yep.
awesome.
Yep. All I have to do is, make sure I'm not swerving, and I can disappear pretty well.
Heck yeah.
Well, I know you guys have another interview coming up here really shortly, so I do want to honor y'all's time. But before we go, my last question for y'all is I think that you can tell a lot about a person, right, by what their current theme song is. Like, what's that current replay song in their life?
Oof.
So for both of y'all, what is y'all's current song?
Okay. So I'm not gonna lie, it has been like this for like years now, but it's Starboy by The Weeknd. I love to warm up to that when I'm doing my workouts. I love to cool down to that when I'm done with my workouts. I like to listen to it when I'm up, pump myself up. It's just that right level. It's like it's not up here, but it's just like right here, and it's just cool as hell. And the lyrics, I feel like I learn something new every time I listen to it, and I just really like it. It's my jam.
Okay, all I got, I think, is the bass line from Another One Bites the Dust from Queen.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I like that.
I got that going on in my head all the time. Don't know why.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's good, though, right? Constantly pushing forward, right?
I guess so.
That's right. Yeah,
That's
no,
what
it's
it sounds
another
like to me, like
motivating.
I'm constantly just pushing forward. And another
Yeah.
one bites the dust. Sorry, now that's gonna be stuck in my head for the rest of the day.
Sorry. Maybe a year.
Nice.
But no, I love that. And thank you so much, guys, for coming on here and just allowing me to
Absolutely.
talk with y'all today. And I think that y'all are so beautiful, and I love what you're promoting. And I heard you a couple times refer to it like kind of like as that music that's kind of heavy, but I feel like in today's world it's so important we gloss over everything nowadays, and we just try to get the dopamine to be happy, but there's so much like internally going on inside that we don't even realize, like, the more that we like stuff it down and press it in there and like keep it held hostage within ourselves, the more we just kind of begin to bottle down ourselves. And so there's something so cathartic about with music, that acceptable place to express it and understand it and feel it, and then not feel alone during it, to where it becomes something so much more beautiful than something heavy. It just becomes like this beautiful alchemy that's happening, that's, just transmitting all that pain into something beautiful. It's almost like Phoenix, coming from the ashes in those moments.
Yes.
And so
that's gorgeous.
I think that is beautiful, you guys. And so I really, really, honestly, I appreciate y'all taking the time out, especially so close to after y'all's tour was just done. Just be
Thank you for having us.
Oh no, thank you. And I think everything that you do is amazing and wonderful, and I'm so happy that we've connected, and I hope to stay connected with you.
Yes, thank you guys so much. I appreciate y'all.
Have a good night.
Thank you.